My name is Debbie Jevans. I'm the Chief Executive of England Rugby 2015 that is responsible for delivering the 2015 Rugby World Cup.
And your objectives, mid-term objectives? I guess the deadline is obviously
The deadline
August, so autumn 2015.
No, quite. The deadline is very much on September the 18th, 2015, when we have to have an opening ceremony and England will play their first match. And I think our deadlines are really, and our objectives have been in three tranches. This year in 2019 has been very much laying the foundation, putting those building blocks in place, which has been everything from finalising a budget, workforce, building a team, all of that boring stuff that needs to be done, because without that you can go nowhere. Next year is when we start to deliver. We have our timelines for International Trophy Relay. Sorry, our tickets go on sale. We launch our volunteering program. So those are three big buckets that have to happen next year. And aligned to that, rather than milestones, we have all of the planning that needs to go on for the venues. So venue site visits, building those venue teams in detail and getting them ready and putting in place some infrastructure. And then 2015 is all about nailing it, really. It's everything from the domestic trophy tour that we'll be doing, and then leading up to that opening ceremony, the fan zones start to roll out, the teams arrive, and that's really getting into that final running.
So when it comes to numbers, bums on seats and revenue generation, it's the last 6 months that count.
It's
in hard terms.
Because you have different tranches of revenue. You have the hospitality and the travelling fans are the first bit, and then we have the public ticket sales. So that revenue starts in 2014, and then yes, it finalises in 2015, and we are ambitious by those targets. We have the guarantee that there's no secret that's 80 million. I think before I took this job, every newspaper I opened up had the 80 million guarantee. It's like, great, okay, thanks for that. And then on top of that, we do want to have money to put back into the game, because that's what this is all about. The 80 million is for international investment, but we want some domestic investment in rugby, and that's through those ticket sales. Our revenue stream is only ticket sales.
We're running a story this week from a fellow called Sven Elkjar, who's a grassroots marketing guru, self-professed probably. He was saying that the most important thing, he's consulting to the Rugby League World Cup at the moment, is that the RFL help the clubs in Rugby League accept, to get the legacy going, aid them in accepting new members and new players and new participants and new volunteers, and it's very difficult to be prepared unless you know what you're prepared for, especially if you're talking about amateur clubs. How much work is going into preparing with the RFU and preparing the grassroots clubs for this wave of interest?
A lot, and the legacy word is always one that sometimes frustrates me, because when people talk to legacy, it always puts off doing anything about it, because it's actually after the event, and the only way you will actually have a benefit, to gain an impact, is to plan what you want out of it as part of the delivery. So we've sat down very closely with the RFU, with its appropriate director Steve Granger, and 2 years to go celebration, that was all about the domestic game. It was about posting the parks, getting into clubs. We're working with them on the All Schools programme. When we do our volunteering launch, again it will be linked to clubs. We're looking where we take the trophy. So the short answer is without question, because I'm a passionate believer, unless you plan what you're going to do as part of that delivery, if we get to 2015 and haven't thought about that, it's too late. So that'll be integral, and the RFU has its own targets, both through schools and both through clubs and participation.
They've put a long-term plan in place, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and maintaining that participation from sort of the 14 to the 25-year-old, and where they've identified there are some drop-offs. So we've sat down and gone through that in detail, and we will enable that as much as we can, without question.
Have there been any lessons learned from your involvement with the Olympics on that as well? Because I know in the media recently there's been a lot about sort of a year on about the legacy, so I just wondered if you're doing anything differently with the Rugby World Cup.
I think that, when I look back on 2012, and I've said this before, look at the infrastructure legacy, there is no question. I remember I went with the chief exec of the International Swimming Federation when we were bidding, because that was part of the bid for the Olympics, and I walked in the middle of what is now Olympic Park onto this desolate site in this sea of fridges because everyone seemed to dump their fridge there. And I said, well, that just use your imagination. That's where there's going to be this amazing aquatic centre. And he's like, yeah, right. And I'm like, no, really. Now look at it. That's 9 years later. So the infrastructure legacy is without question. I think where we've got an advantage in rugby is that it's one sport and we can focus in minute detail on the delivery and participation. When we were delivering 26 sports, to have that attention to detail wasn't as easy is the wrong word. It wasn't as obvious as it is now. But I'm also fortunate enough to sit on Sport England's board, and I have seen their statistics, and I think there has been an improvement. If you take it through everything from disability sports to female sports, there has been a legacy and a good one. Is it enough? Absolutely. Do we need to go better? Do better? Yes, we will.
I have one question, just because I'm interested. Difference between working with the IOC and the IRB. Positive differences.
Is that yeah, how long have you got? No, I think in many ways they're very similar in the sense that they are each the event owner and they each put in place an organising committee to deliver the event. For the IOC, it's a multi-sport event. For the IRB, it's one event. The IRB is more hands-on than the IOC is, and they have a small office here within Webb Ellis House, which is word-based. But the principles are pretty similar, and I think when I read looked at how they both operate, there's clearly been some conversations between the two. But I think if anything, the IRB is much closer to the delivery than the IOC is.